Shabbat Shalom. Would you kindly choose a seat in the sanctuary? Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please take your seats in the sanctuary. Thank you. Welcome to Temple Sinai, friends here in the sanctuary, and welcome to Temple Sinai on screen this evening. My name is Lynn Weinstein, and I'm the co-president of our congregation. Just a few announcements before we start our worship service. Tonight's Erev Shabbat service is sponsored by Anita Goldstein in memory of Bernie Kushel, Judy and Barry Friedfeld in memory of Barry's beloved brother, Wayne Friedfeld. Tonight, donations to the food pantry here in Palm Beach County are sponsored by Laurie Ryan in memory of her beloved mother, Beverly Weinman. Our Saturday Torah study following Shabbat services starts at noon tomorrow. We will not have Shabbat services, but we are looking ahead to beginning Shabbat morning services very soon. The contributors and sponsors of our Torah study tomorrow include Risa Stern in memory of her mother, Edith Stern, Marilyn Heller in memory of her beloved husband, Stanley Heller, Jeannie Hirschberg in memory of her beloved father, Samuel Kronick, James Hurt, with many thanks to the congregation on behalf of his entire family for remembering his daughter-in-law, Dina, who is bravely going through a medical battle. Jim also sponsors with hopeful thoughts for dear friends Carl and Ellen, who were recently injured in an accident, and Andy and Seth Dinsky in honor of Andy's Devar Torah tomorrow at Torah Study. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, 14 months, 15 months, I really still can't even get used to seeing all of you here in the sanctuary. So thank you for coming. Thanks to everybody that's still in the virtual universe with us. What a relief. What a relief to be together. A relief that it's Shabbat again. So to get us in the mood, we got a couple of procedural things. More than that, we got some sacred things. And for the first of those sacred installments, for the candle blessings, I call up Susan Buck.
O source of light and truth, creator of eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to the acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Hashem
So for anyone who's listening right now at this very moment, we have a few, for me here tonight, my name is Cantor Jake. You all know that. For those who may not know it, if it's your first night here at Temple Sinai, welcome. Or if you're in the stratosphere, again, welcome. So to begin our service, in addition to the candle lighting, we have the kiddush. Now, everybody who knows me knows I know a cup that's overflowing. I like a cup that's overflowing in the Manischewitz. So I like to thank all of the ushers, Jay and Lynn, especially Lynn's co-president, for the refill on this. And they say at Temple Sinai, free refills on the Manischewitz if you got it, but you have to be the one who's actually doing the blessing. So if anyone wants an honor here, you want to come up for an honor in the next couple of weeks, please get in touch with our admins. And we have some already scheduled, but going forward, we definitely want to get you back up here. We want to have you honored with these different rituals here. So for the kiddush, we're going to now turn to page 122 if you'd like to bless in addition. 122, 123 it is. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים. Before we jump into some singing, you've already heard some fresh keys, some beautiful piano stylings. We would like to welcome this evening, we are so thrilled to welcome Dr. David McFarland on the keyboard, on the piano over there. So welcome to Dr. David. And when he came through, he also plays at St. Paul's Cathedral in Delray. St. Paul's Church. Yep. See, that's why I'm in here. I don't even know I need to get hip to it. But David came in and he didn't even have a binder in front of him at first, and he played most of this music right off the top of his head. And there are a lot of people, we were talking before, you can go to music school, you can study piano every single day and work it for 20 years and still not be able to memorize a note. There's some people who can only read. So much respect for David. We're so glad to have him here. Now, let's sing some music together. That's going to be on page 128 for some Hine Ma Tov. We're just celebrating being together here, folks, and I just want to hear you singing real loud. So sing back at me, drown me out. That's what we were also saying last week. Dr. McFarland was here. He said, the congregation sings louder than you do, Jake. I said, yeah, that's how we like it here at Temple Sinai. So let's sing a Hine Ma Tov. מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. All right, moving right along to welcome the angels of Shabbat, Shalom Aleichem, and we are going to be on page 140 for Shalom Aleichem, 42 for Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Poechem leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei So another thing that really blew me away when David came through, he says, "You know this one?" And he starts playing something, and I said, "Oof, the congregation knows this one. They're going to be excited." And last week, I was talking about it, and I was giving a shout-out to Andy Dinsky for putting me on to this, one of the first, maybe second week I was ever here at Temple Sinai. And she said, "Enough with the slow Lachado D. Don't you know the one that bumps?" I said, "Andy, what are you talking about?" She said, Lachado D. And I said, "I don't know what it is, but I love it." So here we are, and we got it. So thanks to Andy Dinsky for putting me on to this melody, and to Dr. David for coming through. And it's the rabbi's favorite one. Yes, thank you to Susan. It's the rabbi's favorite one as well. Craig Talman for Lachado D, quintessential prayer of Shabbat. We turn back in our books to 138 verses. At Temple Sinai, we do.
1, 2, 5, 9.
I love it, folks. Here, let's sing together. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. La lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'ribur echad, Tishmi'anu el ha'miyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem ultiferet v'letehila la la lechadoti, Likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela, Lechadoti, Likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, ki hi mekor ha'beracha, merosh mekerem nesucha, sof ma'aseh v'maksheva tehi la 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 lechadoti, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lechadoti, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, kiva orech kumiori, uri shidaberi, kevod Adonai alai nigla lechadoti, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat. נקבלה. לך לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת עלה, גם בשמחה וצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי כלה לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 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 And when we clap directly to the Almighty God. So as long as you're thinking that when you're clapping, it's kosher in here. So the claps are going right to God. And so we were just risen and we sat down. For Baruch Hu, it's coming right after. So those who are still standing, yeah, good move. And we go to Baruch Hu, page 146. And we rise in body or in spirit, or if you're able to. So you rise in body or you rise in spirit. Either way works, folks. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da da da. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. So I'm seeing people in the sanctuary right now, both longtime members and new people who I haven't seen here before. So when we have new people in our midst, anybody, when I think about it, when my parents would have people coming over, they say, go upstairs, I know you're on the 3rd floor, make your bed and clean your room. I said, what are you talking about? Why do I have to make my bed? Nobody's going to go up to my room. And my mom said, it's just about the feeling of being in the house. We want it to be clean because then we're feeling comfortable in our own house. And when we go with the traditions, when we have things that we do that regular members know over and over again, it's such a lovely thing to have. And when new people are coming in, we want to share with them traditions, all the new things that we have. So for all the newcomers, for anybody that I haven't seen here before, or people that don't regularly come to services on Friday night, maybe they'd go on Saturday, we're so glad to have you here. And yes, at home, my bed is made, my clothes are folded. So moving right along, we're on page 150 for Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha mitzvot, hukim umishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shofteinu v'kumeinu, nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei toratecha. תורתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. Page 152 to 153. Please rise in body or in spirit for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Please take a seat. As we turn to the very next page for the interpretive translation of the Ve'ahavta. Now, we did not talk about this beforehand at all, but I know that we have a congregant, not just a student, but a congregant in our midst that has had her bat mitzvah. And I know that she did a fine job at reading this interpretive translation of the Ve'ahavta. So maybe if not tonight, but if she gave me a thumbs up, which maybe not tonight, but another night, we're going to see if we can get her up to read the translation with her. So for tonight, we're going to all read it together right on page 154, but it was a fantastic ceremony that Madison Arsenal had. So not to put her on the spot or anything, she's just like anyone else. Don't even look at her, but we're so proud of her at Temple Sinai. And we're so happy that she has been a part of our community. And her piano skills are on point too. Dr. David would be really impressed with her. So 154 for the interpretive translation, you shall love. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem emet. Now, on page 157, I want to read together at the top the English, Standing on the Parted Shores of History, because it talks about freedom and it talks about truth. It talks about the idea that wherever we go, it's eternally Egypt, that there's a better place. So here we go. Standing on the Parted Shores, top of page 157. Please read with me. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Page 158, we sing about the march together with Mi Chamocha. Yai die die, let's sing. Yai die 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 die. Yai die 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 die. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Mi chamocha pa'ilim Adonai. Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha pa'ilim Adonai. Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Torah tehilot oseh feleh. Torah tehilot oseh feleh. Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Achotecha ra'u v'anecha okei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam. Ze'elianu ve'amru, Ze'elianu ve'amru, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל אמן. 162 will be the page that we're turning to next. And for this next one, in addition to our bat mitzvah, who is no longer a bat mitzvah, she's a woman, she's a part of Jewish society, as any person in this room is, no different than anyone. But there's another person in the room who I know hasn't had their ceremony yet, if that's in the cards, and I'm sure that she'll be excited to sing, but I wanted to teach this person, Delilah Rieger. This is a dance, and I actually learned it. This is L'Dor V'Dor. We have a wall outside our sanctuary. It's a L'Dor V'Dor wall. And we want to pass this dance from generation to generation. I got it from my honorary aunt and uncle, Betty and Eric Adams. And I want us to pass this dance along with this next song to Delilah and to Madison, of course, if she's down with it. I know Madison likes to jump and dance as well. So this is Vishamru. Delilah, come on up. Come on up. You can bring your daddy if you want to. This is what we're going to do. When the song goes, we can face them too. We want to make sure that they all know what we're doing here. So when the song goes, Et ha-Shabbat, Daddy, what are we doing? Some people, Delilah, like to go, woo! Can you do that with me? Et ha-Shabbat, I just need to be close to the microphones, Delilah, because when I'm making the music, they got to be able to hear me well. But I want you to stand and dance, and we can all dance together. Anyone that wants to jump up with us, we can totally do this. Vishamru is about the Jews keeping their covenant of Shabbat. That means we're forced every 6 days to take a day off. That's a pretty good covenant. So here we are. Get ready, Delilah. We're about to dance. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoret u'merit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. Now la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoret u'merit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoret ha'merit olam. Ki sheshet yamim עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני, את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. One more, Delilah. לשמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. Lador Vador. Thank you, Delilah. Thank you so much, Delilah. All right, in a moment we're going to be together for the tefillah, and that is just awesome. That's really awesome. And I remember back when I was little, and I'm still young, I know, but hey, it's all a spectrum here. It's all a spectrum. Next weekend, if anyone wants to tune in, I will be having my bar mitzvah, so you can check me out reading Torah for the first time. And you know, folks, that's how you know that this is a wonderful community, because after 2 years, that joke still has not gotten old at all. So thank you for keeping that fresh. Now, when I was younger, I went to a Have Shalom in Brookline, yep, Juten and Baruchline is what we used to call it, the two most heavily Jewish populated cities in Boston. So the rabbi, her name is Emily Lipoff, and she said the first day we all went in there, to my brother and me when we were little, "Do you want to race?" I said, "What? Do you want to race?" I know my parents are watching probably on the YouTube, and so my dad's loving this story. She said, "Do you want to race?" And my dad's, he's not a formal person, but he's pretty about his business. So it's the temple, he wants to see what it's all about. And the rabbi says, "Do you want to race?" to my brother and me. And she races us to the bima. And sitting there in the bima were these raisins. She gave us raisins. And I said, "That's the reward for Torah. You get dried fruit. So you want to study Torah, you get the raisins." So anytime that young kids can participate in the service, even if it's not what we would do, which this is what I do. This Delilah and we were doing the same thing. That's what I would be doing on Vishamra. But anytime that the kids want to get involved in the service, that's just like us getting involved in the service just 40 years ago. You know, it's no different than anyone. So I want to take that as a kavanah into the tefillah. As we get older, it's only really our bodies and our ability to process information that may age, our zeal for life and our love for living. To a certain point, it won't diminish. But here we are, 164 for the tefillah. Please rise in body or spirit, if it's your custom to do so. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Geula livnei v'neihem, L'man Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Please take some time for silent meditation. ישראל עמך תשים לעולם, שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדום לכל השלום, כי אתה לכל השלום, שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם, שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. בטוב עיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה ישלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם, שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם. It's really, really fantastic to be here together, and also we would be remiss if we weren't thinking about those that aren't well and aren't able to be here with us because they're unwell, or who may be here who are unwell and are in need of our prayers of healing. So we'd like to offer prayers of healing to those in our congregation, people that our congregation are close with. And if there's anyone that you're thinking of right now that is in need of healing prayers, please say their name now. So if you're tuning in on the YouTube, you can see the list of Misha Berach on the screen. And I also have a list right here in front of me that I'm going to be looking at as we turn now to 371 to sing the Debbie Friedman Misha Berach together.
Of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Yisheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Next in our service is something that I haven't been able to experience in 15 months, and chances are, since we're in the same congregation, you're going to be like me in that you haven't experienced this in about 14 months. So, page 362, we turn now to the Torah service, and to open the ark for the Torah service, I call up Marcia Weber and Howard Cohn. The fireworks didn't make it here in time, but I would have been blasting them off for this Torah service. So we call up Howard and Marcia to open the ark, and we're on page 362.
Ein kamocha ve'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kemasecha, malchutecha malchut, kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor vador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch, leolam vaed. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim heitiv avirtzonecha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Ki vecha levad batachnu, melech ונישא אדון עולמים. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. אחד אלוהינו גדול אדוננו קדוש שמו. גדלו לאדוני איתי ונרוממה שמו יחדיו. לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד. כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל לראש.
So we're going to have one congregational aliyah, but we're going to, have some space in between standing and sitting here. So let's all collect ourselves. That was a great feeling hearing that music. And, soon we'll be carrying this Torah around the congregation again. But, we have to make sure that it's coming at the right time. So we'll have one congregational aliyah. I'm going to read from the beginning of the parashah. And the plout, I believe that Dr. McFarland has the plout page. Dr. McFarland, what page? 1127. Another just amazing thing about David is that he is a well-versed Torah reader. So it's very, very impressive. And I'm so glad to have him gabbying me. So if it's your custom to do so and you'd like to be part of this congregational aliyah, please rise in body or in spirit. We'll say the prayers together. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vahed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Vaikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kahat ben Levi Vedatan ve'Aviram b'nei Eliav ve'on ben Felet b'nei Reuven. ויקומו לפני משה ואנשים מבני ישראל 50 ו200 נשיאי עדה קריאה מועד אנשי שם ויקהלו על משה ועל אהרון ויאמרו עליהם רב להם כי כל העדה
כולם כראשים ובתוכם אדוני, ומדועה תתנשאו על קהל אדוני.
And now the closing blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
And a blessing for the whole congregation. Merciful God, may the resiliency of these people that have stuck together through a difficult plague that was put forth upon them continue to stick together and continue to show love to one another and continue to come into this space, put all preconceived notions about what a person could be aside and be together. And may that continue long after any one of us is gone. Amen. And now we're prepared to lift and to tie the Torah. First, I'm going to lift it up for some Hagbah, and I need you all to sing with me, V'zot HaTorah, but I'm not going to be facing you. I'm going to be facing away, so I'd love to hear your voices in this.
V'zot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al ki Adonai b'yad Moshe.
And for the returning of the Torah to the Ark, we are going to be on page 374.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו. הודו על ארץ ושמיים, וירם קרן לעמו. תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל עם קרובו. הללויה, הללויה. עת חיים היא למחזיקים בה, ותומכיה מאושר. דרכיה דרכי נועם, לכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה. קדש, קדש ימינו, קדש ימינו כקדם. אמן.
Please be seated. So right before the service, a good friend, Seema Greenblatt, told me she had a tip for me for the tallis, and I wasn't able to get that tip. So I hope after the service she'll be able to share it with me. But what I forgot to mention to her is you should talk to Susan Postal Sweet and talk about the advice that's been given to me about my tallis. You can keep giving it to me, and I just don't understand it. I don't know how to work this thing. But someday I will. I have many different ones, so it's part of what we're commanded to do. I've considered actually going Orthodox so that I could just wear the tzitzit on my clothes, and then I don't have to worry about putting it on. So that's another tip for me, is just go full Orthodox. So, Jacob's dream. Yeah, it was in my dream, exactly. So, the more I think back to my earlier years, again with these earlier years, I'm all about them. I feel like I've lived a long life so far with what's been in it. So, yeah, 28 long years. But the more I realize that my disillusionment in my early years with being Jewish, it came not from anything that was happening in the temple, outside of some of those 4-hour-long high holiday services, but the anti-Semitism that I was experiencing in school. That's what made me not proud and happy to be Jewish. I spoke last week about the Pledge of Allegiance and what being an American meant to me as a young Jewish kid. I distinctly remember the first day that I was singled out for being Jewish. In 6th grade, another student, as I was minding my own business, was going down a line of students, greeting them by appearances rather than by names. Hey, kid with the glasses and the turtleneck. Hey, kid with the Power Rangers backpack and blue eyes. Then he looked at me. Hey, Jewish kid with the curly hair and big nose. My stomach sank. I never thought about my features being Jewish. Never. I didn't know you could look Jewish before that. I went home. I said, Mom, you'll never believe what somebody said to me in school. She said, unfortunately, Jake, I do. And not only did they say that to you, but my nickname in high school was Nose. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Cambridge, Massachusetts. These types of comments continued into 7th grade when I switched to the Kennedy Longfellow School on the east side of Cambridge. The school had a much different demographic, and Jews were few and far between. Most of the students were white Catholics, blacks, and Hispanics. I was one of 3 Jewish kids in my grade, and according to the student body, I looked the most Jewish, whatever that meant. While teachers would occasionally hear some of the comments made towards me, they usually didn't get involved other than scold the perpetrator in the moment. That was it. Although the anti-Semitic comments didn't seem like they were charged with hate, as sometimes it'd be people who I'd consider friends who were saying them to me. The older I got, the more I realized how it negatively impacted my view of being Jewish and my pride in my heritage. It seemed no matter what I did or the type of person I was, it just wasn't cool to be Jewish. People would say, I know you're not cheap, but those Jews, man, you know those Jews are cheap. I know you personally yourself did not drive a stake into Jesus' hand and kill him, but your people definitely did. My mom went to Catholic school. She knows. Eventually, I just learned to play it off. Say, yeah, because losing my cool would only feed into their desire to keep bullying me. So I played it cool. And I was furious when someone suggested to me, you should be a cantor. I didn't want to do that. Being Jewish, as I had learned in school, was not cool. Until our class began studying world religions. We were going to visit a church, a synagogue, and a mosque. My parents were really involved with the temple at the time, so my mom was able to organize the temple that we'd go and view to be our temple, Ohave Shalom in Brookline. When the day came, I was so excited, but I was also nervous. What are these kids going to do who have ripped on me every day for a year and a half for being Jewish when they come into a Jewish space? Are they going to bring markers? Are they going to bring pens? Are they going to carve stuff into the back of the seats? Are they going to call the rabbi out and say to the rabbi the same things that they said to me in class? When we arrived and entered the sanctuary, at Ohave Shalom, if you've ever been to Brookline or if you've ever seen it, it's a gigantic sanctuary with a copper dome that towers over the top, and the inside of the dome is gold, and it shines. It was beautiful. Walking in, my classmates were all in awe, and their eyes scanned to every corner of the sanctuary. I started to realize many of them never had been in a temple before in their entire lives. In the city, in Boston, never had been to a temple. We sat down as the rabbi and cantor gave brief presentations. My cantor growing up was a man named Rabbi Solomon, who's a great Jewish composer and cantor, still active now. We actually hear his music. I love to sing it, especially Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amechavta. Great music. Or Yismechu V'Malechutecha Yismechu, Rabbi Solomon. When he spoke to my classmates, he talked about how important music was to the Jews and how important it was to the service and what his role was as the cantor. I looked around at my classmates, and they were all watching and listening intently. No one made snide remarks. No one spoke out. Then, Cantor Solomon sang an example of temple music. The sound of his voice rang throughout the room and reverberated within the space. To me, it was just like any high holiday service or Shabbat service. It's just Cantor Solomon. That's what he does. We walked out, and I heard my classmates talking. They said to one another, "That was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. Can you believe that man's voice? I've never heard anything like that. It was beautiful. Jewish singing is so beautiful." I returned to school, and after that experience, the negativity towards me being Jewish subsided. It wasn't eliminated. There's no Hollywood ending here. It's still here, but it subsided. It did. The power of that moment, that's the reason I'm here today. This week, in the Torah, we read about Korach and his rebellion against Moses and Aaron. At a certain point in the wandering stage of our story, Korach and 250 other Israelite chieftains rise up against Moses. Two of them say to Moses, "It's not enough that you brought us from a land flowing with milk and honey to have us die out here in the wilderness, and you want to lord it over us?" Even though they were enslaved, some Israelites, in their desperation, thought that they would prefer the comforts of slavery to the unknown and to the fear that would be part of their lives moving forward. 2 years ago, I made the decision to move down to Florida to start this job. I'd never had a full-time job before this. I felt my life in Cambridge was perfect. I knew my surroundings. I never had to leave. Yet, I hadn't yet fulfilled my life's purpose. When the time came to make the move, I was a wreck. I was in fear. I had so much fear. I didn't know any of y'all, except for maybe a couple people I had met in May, and it was great to meet everyone, but this is my life. My life was being completely changed. What happens if I'm not accepted by the community or I don't do a good job? Luckily for me, the community in question is this one. From the first service, I was met with an overwhelming warmth that has continued even through the challenges of the past year. The love that has been shown to me by the members of this congregation has and always will be a blessing. So soon after I began living here, my fears dissipated. For every Shabbat and holiday that we've shared and every conversation that we've had, I'm grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for taking a chance on a young guy like me. Being with you has enabled me to grow and learn in ways I never thought possible. Had I stayed in my comfort zone, making music in my parents' attic, I would have never made it to my personal promised land, Florida. I'm not talking about the literal promised land for the Jews at large. Rather, it's more of a realization of a life pursuit. Staying true to my musical path so that I'd be guided to people who would love me and value my music. Even though I had been rejected from every major music school in the United States, even though it didn't work out for me and they rejected me at cantorial school, even though I never thought Florida would be a home to me, just like I never thought I'd be a cantor. Both of those things now define my life and my career. For this Shabbat, I want all you to know that you've given me purpose, inspiration, and validation, that I'll be able to create moments like Cantor Solomon did for my elementary school class back in the sanctuary at Ohave Shalom. When the time comes for me to be in front of people who consider Jews to be enemies or who are enemies of freedom and justice for all, my ability to stand my ground and sing directly from the heart not will only have been strengthened by my vocal training, but by the people like you all who believed in me when many others didn't. To my friends here at Temple Sinai, in the sanctuary, and those tuning in from beyond on the YouTube, I'll never forget the experiences that we shared, and I'll never forget everything that you all did for me. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. So now we prepare for the concluding prayers in our service, and there's this one, it's Mel Brooks, so I feel like it's okay for me to talk about it, but in the movie Spaceballs, he says, prepare to fast forward. It's preparing. What are we doing? Why are we always preparing? Why don't we just go? Jews love to prepare. We're going to prepare to do these prayers, and there's not really much to the preparation. I just say that so I can pick up my guitar and strap it around my back. Page 586, and I invite back up Marcia Weber and Howard Cohn to open the ark for the Aleinu. And if it's your custom to do so and you feel so moved, please rise in body or in spirit. We're on page 586 for the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Our thoughts turn now to those who are no longer with us. Around the sanctuary, we have the plaques of those whose yard sites are this season or in seasons past. And those names that are illuminated in the plaques are Madeline H. Aronson, Roselle Bloom, Erwin Bruskin, Oscar Bruskin, Clara Japak, Adolf Carmiel, Irving Corland, Samuel Kronick, Hilda Lippman, Joseph Malmond, Harry Pincus, Donald Price, Benjamin Shapiro, Louis J. Schreier, Dr. Wynne Stern, LCC Tompkins, and Rosalind Waldman. Others that are remembered at this time: Yale Auerbach, Sidney Barnett, Martin Chasen, Wayne Fell, Herbert Friedman, Emma Goldrum, Herman Goldrum, Stanley Heller, Billy Eisenberg, Charlotte Katchurin, Paul Katz, Bernie Kushel, Rose E. Liu, Leonard Raskin, Estelle Rose, Benjamin Shoemaker, Edith Sosnow, William Wagner. Recent deaths, those whose deaths are within the last 30 days: Susan Edelstein and Albert Altabet. If there are any other people that are observing a yard site, please.
Ron Brown. Albert Bailey.
So for all those that we're remembering and those who don't have anyone to say Kaddish for them, if it's your custom to do so, please rise in body or in spirit, and we're going to be on page 598 as we recite the Mourner's Kaddish together. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyom echon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabba mivarach le'olam ulalmei almaya. Yit barach v'yish tabach v'yit ba'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh. V'yit hadar v'yit alev v'yit halal shemei dekudashah barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Da miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say amen. Please be seated. So we turn now to our closing song. And I forget who it was. Someone came up to me after services one time and they said, you know, we really never get that Adon Olam. Just that Adon Olam at the end. So whoever, I'm sorry I forgot who said it to me, but it's for you, whoever it is. So Adon Olam 625. And just before we sing, I want to once again thank Dr. David McFarland for his beautiful piano stylings for the evening. So much respect for him as a musician and as a scholar. So we're so lucky to have him here. Hopefully he'll want to come back. All right, so 625, let's sing together Adon Olam.
Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yetzir nivra v'yein nasa v'chefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kiklot hakol levado yimloch nora ve'hu haya ve'hu hoveh Vehu בצור חבלי ביצרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, והתישן בעירה, ועם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא, אדוני לי ולא אירא.
Shabbat Shalom.